Hello again. It's Dr. Jenn from the Rose Center for Learning, and this is your Monday message of mental health on a Wednesday. And that is because I had a different message all set up and ready to go, and I was about to hit publish on Monday, and I just thought, no, nope, I'm not going to do it. I want to talk about something else. I really want to talk about what's going on. And so, in respect for Blackout Tuesday, I didn't post anything yesterday, and I'm posting it today instead. So, let's talk about it. Here we are in a dark depth of despair as we witness again many of our American citizens being mistreated and facing injustices that are hard to even imagine. So, why do we talk about this in a message of mental health? Well, because mental health is really dependent on a couple of things: respect, love, feeling cared for, feeling respected, feeling honored, feeling seen. It's not even the absence of being mistreated, which of course is important too, but to have those things, our good mental health requires that. And for a lot of Americans, they're not experiencing that on a daily basis. But I'm not only speaking to those Americans who aren't experiencing that, obviously. I'm speaking to all Americans because the weight of this country falls on us all. And if the mental health is of some of our members is gravely affected, then it should affect the mental health of us. So, what's become very apparent through this and in past years when other loud and obvious examples came up for us, we all are part of the problem and therefore part of the solution. And so this week's message is all about doing the work. What does that mean? We hear that phrase a lot: do the work, do the work. What does that mean? What that means is that we have to take a look at not only our own selves, but the selves around us, and to understand that this is a problem that is countrywide, that is seeped in the fabric of how our country was built. And the only way that we're going to make any difference at all is if we all together, collectively and individually, do our best to make a difference and change it. So it starts with being able to reflect on your own experiences and listen to the experiences of other people. I'm going to start. So, the story that I want to share with you happened a couple of years ago, and I was at a cocktail party, and I will fully admit it was a cocktail party I did not want to be at, because I thought that I wasn't going to bond with the people that were there. They didn't feel like my people. I didn't think that I would be able to have easy conversations, and so I didn't want to go. But I went, and I found myself in a group of people that were talking about the latest, I think it was Tamir Rice. They were talking about the latest black boy to have been murdered. And everybody was going and, sort of saying the horror, the horror. But then one person in the group said, it just makes me think, how did you learn about what it is to be black? Can you think back to somebody who taught you what it means to be black and how you learned about it? Now, obviously, given that question, you can know that the people in the room were all white. So I felt that the conversation was incredibly uncomfortable because I had an idea of the agenda behind it, but I didn't say anything. And I thought about my answer authentically and listened as people went around the room before it got to me. And as probably maybe doesn't surprise you, the answers were all based on pretty much fueling the three stereotypes that we tend to talk about. And the first one was the angry black man. So a lot of the stories that went around the room were that was my first encounter was of an angry black man. The second was a poor black man or woman. And the story was somehow revolved around that. And the third was stereotyping like, well, my uncle was a racist and this is what he taught me. I'm not racist, of course. I have all these friends, but my uncle was super racist. Let me tell you about that story. So those were the three categories of everyone going around the room. So when it got to me, I thought, all right, should I tell my prepared answer? Should I not? And then I thought, no, I'm going to tell it. And so my answer was that when I think about like the epitome of a black man, I think about my friend Malcolm. And Malcolm, I went to high school with. He was in my sister's class, so he was older, which made him automatically dreamy, of course. But when I think about Malcolm and why he's the person that jumps to mind, I think about how unbelievably funny he is, and how kind and how respectful. But really, what was remarkable about him is that all of the kids loved him, but all of the faculty and staff did as well. And he had such integrity that he was able to be his Malcolm self to any age, any position, anyone in his life. And I always was so impressed by that. Now, lest you think that this is unusual for Malcolm, Malcolm is a gem, but he's not the only one. I can name on 4 or 5 hands um, people who taught me the same characteristics that all happen to be black, men and women. So I told the story, and as I sort of thought would happen, it was just silent for a second. And then the conversation continued, and off we went. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, how nice, she's telling a story about how she stood up and, somehow used her white privilege to stand up for her black brothers and sisters, then you've totally missed the story. This is not a story that I'm necessarily proud of, although up until a couple weeks ago, I probably would have told you this story as, look at me, I actually stood up and gave a good answer that was authentic and that was true and that was respectful. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is that this is the very epitome of white privilege. That, number one, I didn't stand up. I told a story that didn't follow a stereotype. That I can say I did. But other than that, I didn't stand up. I was uncomfortable with the very question when it came up, and I should have said something then. If I'm really going to stand up, I should have said, hey, that's a terrible question. What does that question even mean? Why are you asking that question? What's behind it? Or as people were going around the room, I could have said, can you take a look at the fact that you're just kind of fueling a stereotype that has long, long, long been seen with this particular subpopulation and has hurt them over and over and over again? And you're just kind of fueling it. So, can you see how that just is added to the problem? There are lots of things that I could have said. But in my cozy little area, I was able to just say my story and then go about and move about the party. And I kind of had the naivete to think that my answer was somehow going to make a difference, that somehow I was going to like really make them think and change some minds and feel good about that. When of course they had maybe 3 seconds of staring at me and then they just went on to the next thing. And I don't think I made a difference at all. So that's what I've really been looking at is it's not enough to just be a good person, right? And that is what I think a lot of us are starting to understand, and hopefully all of us will really start to look at. That's good, right? So being able to live a life where you are kind and respectful and you don't discriminate, that's great. Obviously, we want you to do that. But this Black Americans have been um, victimized, brutalized, and traumatized for so long. They need more than that because it just isn't ending. It's not changing. It's nothing is any different. I think when I think about what lessons I learned growing up, I definitely learned to be a good person, to be respectful to everybody, to be caring to everybody. But I also learned not to rock the boat. I learned that it's easier to just walk away and not engage than it is to stand up and fight. And I have so many examples of a life filled with hearing people's awful comments and learning the reaction of, oh, that's just Uncle Harry. He's always that way. We just let him do his thing. It's just easier. Those kinds of things, which really sums up into that white silence that people are talking about. That is a very real thing. And I felt that. I experienced that um, probably every day. And the thing that really keeps me up, that really makes me feel so awful, is that I come from a very, very diverse city. I went to a very diverse high school that I loved, and I have friends that were very different from me in all the ways that you can be different, all the cultural ways that you can be different. And I really, although I never said the words, I don't see color, I really focused on people's characteristics, their personality characteristics, and that's what I was drawn to. So if you were super funny and if you kind of made fun of me and if you liked to have a good time and if you were smart and had, interesting things to say, those were sort of some of the characteristics that would make me want to be friends with you. And that I wasn't focused on. That was my focus. Okay? But what I've come to understand from all of my friends and from people I don't know that have had similar backgrounds to mine, I just know that while I was there enjoying all of these people, they were experiencing this kind of racism every single day, and I didn't see it. Or worse, if I saw it, it didn't register as something that I should do anything about, or something that I should be upset about, or something that I would even remember 25 years later. And that feels bad because I love them and they were in pain. And how great of a friend was I if I wasn't seeing that and wasn't standing by their side? That's my definition today of white privilege, is that even if you saw something or even if something made you uncomfortable, you could just sort of sweep it off and go about your merry way and not even remember it. Or these things could be happening all around you and you wouldn't even see it. That's the very definition of white privilege. Whereas all of my friends couldn't do that. They couldn't just shake it off. They couldn't just ignore it because it was every day. Or, more to the point, if they did that, if they found some way to ignore it and stuff it down, it just would grow and grow and grow until you get to a point where you just can't take it anymore. And then anger and rage and pain and trauma come out. And then, bonus, you're judged for that. And so, any of you who are feeling like these riots make no sense to you, or if you found yourself saying the things of like, well, that's not going to help their cause, or violence doesn't help, or this is the last thing that they should be doing to get us to help, or to get the help they need, or to get people to listen, I would really ask you to sit for a minute and answer the question, what would you have them do then? Because they have been doing everything to get this country to listen. Everything, every aspect that you can, everything you can do, they have done. And here we are. Here we are in 2020 with someone being murdered by the very people that are designated protectors of all citizens. Here we are. What would you have them do? Because nothing is working. Nothing. Yeah. And that is what we mean by doing the work. By waking up and saying, oh, yeah, this was happening all around me. And did I stand up? Did I do enough? Did I do what they needed me to do? And if I didn't, then how can I? How can I learn? How can I learn to do that? How can I learn to be the best kind of citizen my country demands me to be for all of our citizens? How can I support them all? So we have to listen. We have to do something. We have to stand up and say, this is not okay. I'm standing with all of the citizens of this country, all of my brothers and sisters that are part of the same Constitution. That's what we need to stand up for. So, how do you do it? Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to read and read and read. There's a list of books that have been recommended to me, and a lot of them have been circulating around Facebook. I'm going to put them on my website so you can go and check them out. And I'm going to start reading them and start having some of the tough conversations and really taking a look at myself and the people around me and saying, what can I do better? This is part of growing your mental health. Just like you look at other areas of your life and say, how can I improve? So what's a good example? Like fitness or nutrition. And you say, all right, well, how can I do better for my body? How can I fill it with better things? How can I work it out? How can I be a better version of myself? Well, this is part of that. So when you look at those things, what do? You read articles, you read books, you talk to people, you say, what fitness are you doing? You look great. What are you eating? What recipes do you have to share? That's what we need. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be doing the reading, we need to be doing the work, and then we need to be talking. but you have to do the work. You have to do the reading. You can't just go to someone and say, hey, you are my Black friend. Tell me how not to be racist, or tell me what I need to be doing. It is not their responsibility. It's not, it's your responsibility. It's all of our responsibilities to do the work. So it's okay to ask someone, I've been doing all this reading and I'm, I'm really learning what it's like, and I just want you to know I'm open. If you want to share some of your experiences with me, I would really like to hear them. That's an okay thing to say. Be prepared for them to say no, but you have to do the work first. So I invite you, I implore you to join me in doing the work. I hope you have a week filled of introspection and mindfulness and, above all else, love for you and for your fellow citizens. I'll see you next week.